$200,000. That's Donald Trump's bond amount for the latest indictment. His attorneys reached the bond agreement in the Georgia case, accusing former president of scheming to overturn his 2020 election loss. Now, in court papers filed today, this $200,000 bond was determined, and the filings also bar Trump from intimidating co-defendants, witnesses, or victims in the case, including on social media. He is also prohibited from communicating in any way, directly or indirectly, about the facts of the case with any co-defendant or witnesses, except, of course, through his attorneys. Now, Trump and 18 allies were indicted on 41 charges for allegedly scheming to illegally overturn the 2020 election and stop the peaceful transition of power. And now I am joined by Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist and author, and Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, senior professional lecturer for the School of International Service at American University in D.C., and of course, Renita Shannon, former Georgia State Representative. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I want to start with you, Dr. Malveaux. What is it that you think is going on with this $200,000 bond? There have been other people who have had lesser bonds. Is this enough? Is this a number that actually makes sense or means anything when we talk about what bond amounts could potentially be?
Well, first of all, welcome. Glad to see you. Let me say that the bond amount seems very random. There's someone who got $1 million bond. There's some who've had as little as $20,000, $30,000. I don't think that $200,000 means that much to President Trump, or former president, or about to be convicted president. I don't think it means that much to him. It's symbolic. If he doesn't show up for trial, he'll forfeit the amount of money. He will show up for trial. He can't hide anywhere in the United States. But I think that it's clear this is so unprecedented in terms of U.S. politics. A former president having to pay bond, but a former president being convicted or being indicted for these kind of crimes. So I don't see it as a big deal. I would have preferred to see more just to transmit the severity of the issue, but he's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be extra. He can't go anywhere. He'd be immediately extradited. He's immediately recognizable. So it's a symbolic gesture to suggest, as Fetty, the sister, said, he's going to be treated just like everybody else. Everybody else is going to have to pay bond. So is he.
Renita, I want to go to you. When we talk about this bond and the warnings, especially that Trump was given when it comes to social media, which we know it's very difficult for him to follow directions in that regard, what are your thoughts about those warnings and whether or not they will have any effect? Because it seems like in the past, it has had none.
Well, I think that we can expect that Trump is going to violate these warnings because we have, as you mentioned, we've seen in the past where he has intimidated witnesses. He has done things to sort of put a hit out on those who prosecute him. So I think that we probably will see that he will violate these, and it'll just be interesting to see what will be done. I mean, I agree with Dr. Malveaux on some parts where she said specifically that this is not a significant bond. It's really not for somebody like him. And although it will be embarrassing, I mean, here in Georgia, you only have to put up 15% of the original bond if you wanted to go through a bail bondsman. So if he wanted to, he could actually go through a bail bondsman, even though it would be, embarrassing and not have to put up very little money at all. I do think that there's a risk that he could go somewhere. I think that there are countries that would not care to extradite him. I'm thinking Russia as one, or any country that, wants to sort of get access to the things that I think that some of the documents that he took from the White House. Even though many of them have been returned, he still knows that information and held it for a very long time. And who knows if he has copies or what. So I think that, the bond that was set, I don't see this being significant for him, and I don't see it being enough to ensure that he will not do the things he's not supposed to do while he awaits trial.
Dr. Dibinga, it seems as though this bond was so low, it seems like as if maybe Trump might make an issue out of this, make it part of his campaign as he has all of these indictments. What are your thoughts about this particular number? I mean, $200,000, not that much, certainly something that he'd be able to pay. What are your thoughts?
I think that when it comes to Donald Trump, we just have to remember that when we were talking about Nixon, we were talking about a politician who became a criminal. Donald Trump is a criminal who became a politician. And so whether we're talking 200,000, 100,000, 2 million, or whatever it is, I think that the number is random, and I think it's more symbolic. The fact of the matter is Trump has a history of not paying anybody, his lawyers, members of his own team. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he actually does. And that's why I look at it more of a symbolic thing, because I feel like they're giving him an opportunity to not pay, to really mess this up, because he just feels like he's so entitled. And so when people, if it was 2 million or 5 million or whatever, people will say it's so astronomical and he deserves better. So it's like, let's just set it really low comparatively, and then let's see what you do. Really, at the end of the day, I'm also concerned that all of these orders, he can't intimidate people, so on and so forth. Even with the federal trial with Judge Chutkan, he's already been violating this. And I've heard lawyer after lawyer and legal analyst after legal analyst say if any other person did what he did online, they'd already be in jail. So all of these different trials have placated him in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like even though this 200,000 is symbolic, it's just another example of how the rules that apply to others just don't apply to him. It should definitely be higher, just to send a message to the rest of us.
I do like the judge's move where she said, if you do keep talking, we will continue to move this trial closer and closer, not push it further away like you and your attorneys have requested. I wanted to turn to another symbolic thing that's going on, and that's the symbolism of Trump not even being at this week's debates. Dr. Malveaux, I wanted to start with you. When we talk about actually running for president, do you think that the cost of entry is to be a part of these debates? Or should Trump have his right to say, you know what, I don't want to do it. You don't need to hear what I have to say on any of these issues. It's my right.
You know, it's very interesting. His hubris is going to catch up with his hind parts one of these days. Because it's just hubris. I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't care. You can't make me. It's like the kid in the closet. But the question is whether Republican voters are going to be willing to punish him. It's not what we think, really. It's what Republican voters think about his failure to participate. This is a grand opportunity, I think, for 2 or 3 of the Republican wannabes. Certainly DeSantis or DeSatan will have an opportunity to stand out. Pence may have that opportunity. And so may Tim Scott, Mr. Optimism. You know, they may all have an opportunity to stand out. And the invisible man on the platform can be attacked right ways, left ways, and sideways. And he's not there to defend himself. Like Chris Christie said, this is a coward. This is someone who doesn't want to play. I don't know what the answer is. I think that the question you asked, which is really important, should participation in debates be part of the entry-level process? Should it be required that you participate in debates? Well, this is not an RNC debate. So the RNC can certainly create requirements. Others can create requirements. Whoever's sponsoring this debate has made some requirements about percentage in the polls, the number of donations you have, et cetera. So, I don't think that necessarily at this point, remember, we're a year out. So we're a year out. Now, if we get closer and he continues to refuse to debate, I do think that there will be consequences, both formal and informal, because I think right now we're just so early on that it's almost like a sideshow, frankly.
Yeah. A lot of it certainly does seem like a sideshow.